It is 2:47 in the morning on March 2nd, 2026, and I am sitting here, wrapped in a blanket at my kitchen table with my hands shaking so bad I can barely hold my phone. I did not plan to do this tonight. I was not going to record anything. But I have been awake for 3 hours now, just sitting with what happened, and I cannot stay silent. I physically cannot close my eyes and go back to sleep, knowing what I know right now. If there is any chance that what I was shown tonight applies to someone watching this, I have to speak. I have to. So let me just be honest with you first. I know how this is going to sound. I know that when someone says they had a vision or that Jesus spoke to them, a lot of people immediately scroll away. And I understand that. I get it truly. But I am asking you, I am begging you, stay with me, because what he showed me tonight was not abstract. It was not symbolic in some vague way that could mean anything. It was specific. It was urgent. And there is a reason you are watching this right now at whatever hour it is where you are. You were not supposed to stumble onto this. You were led here. I believe that with everything in me, and what I am about to share with you is not something I can unsay. Once you hear this, you carry it. So if you feel any hesitation right now, any sense that maybe you should pause and come back later, I want you to fight through that, because the thing I was shown tonight has a timeline. It has a window, and I do not know how long that window stays open. Now you need to understand something about me. I am not someone who has visions regularly. I am not a prophet standing on a platform with a title. I am a person who prays, who struggles, who fails, who gets back up. I am ordinary. And I think that is exactly why he came to me tonight. Because what he had to say was not for the impressive or the polished. It was for the ones like you and me, the ones awake at strange hours, the ones who carry questions nobody else around them seems to be asking. And I have been carrying this particular question for years. Years. I have never said it out loud in a video before because it felt too heavy, too close to grief that I did not want to reopen. But the question is this: what actually happens to a soul right after death? Not eventually, not after judgment, not the final destination, right after. In those first moments or hours, or however time works on the other side, does the soul know what happened? Does it linger? Does it see the people it left behind? I needed to know, and tonight he answered me. So I want you to stop what you are doing. If you are doing something else, put it down. If you are driving, pull over, because I am serious. You are going to want to hear every word of this. And if you are lying in bed watching this in the dark, good. Stay exactly where you are. Let what I am about to tell you settle into you, because I am going to share 7 things he showed me. 7 specific things. And the 7th one, the last one, I almost could not finish watching it. I had to ask him to stop. I will tell you why when we get there. It started earlier tonight around 11:30. I had gone to bed, but I could not sleep. I kept thinking about someone I lost. I'm not going to say who, because it does not matter who specifically. What matters is the ache. You know the ache. I mean that particular kind of grief that does not scream. It just sits. It just sits in the room with you and breathes. And I started praying. Not a fancy prayer, not a structured prayer, just are you there? And did they make it? And do they know? I still think about them every single day. I prayed like that for maybe 20 minutes, and then the room changed. I do not know how else to say it. The room changed. The temperature shifted. The air got heavy, but not in a frightening way. Heavy in the way that a presence fills a space. And I sat up in bed, and I said out loud, I said, "Is that you?" And he said, "Yes, just that." "Yes." And then he said, "You have been asking, and I want to show you." Now let me describe what I saw, because the setting he showed me was not random. He did not show me a white room or a bright light or something generic. He showed me a lake, a real place, I think, a lake with water so blue, so impossibly blue, that it did not look like something our world made. Turquoise and deep and clear, ringed by mountains that rose like walls straight up into a sky that was the color of cold morning. There were peaks, 10 of them, surrounding this lake like they were standing guard, and the water reflected those peaks perfectly, and the air smelled like cold and pine and something else, something clean in a way that the air here never quite is. I was standing at the edge of this lake, and he was standing beside me, and he said, "Watch." He said, "I want to show you what you have been afraid to ask about." He said, "I want to show you the first moments after the crossing." So watch is exactly what I did. And the first thing he showed me, this is number one. The first thing is that the soul does not sleep. This is the thing I think we get most wrong. We assume, or at least I assumed, that death is like going under, like anesthesia, like the lights just go out and the next thing you know, you are somewhere else. But that is not what I was shown. The moment of crossing is not a blackout. It is the opposite. It is the most awake the soul has ever been. He showed me a man, middle-aged, I do not know his name. And the moment his body stopped, his awareness did not stop. His awareness expanded like waking up after the deepest sleep of your life, but without any grogginess, without any fog, just sudden piercing complete awareness. And I watched this man look down at what he had left behind and just stand there in the shock of finally understanding. I said, "Is that terrifying?" And Jesus said, "For some, it is relief. For some, it is grief. But no one is confused about what has happened." Like that hit me hard. No one is confused about what has happened. Your loved one is not wandering. They are not disoriented. They know. And that means the question I have been carrying. Did they make it through? Did they land somewhere real? The answer he was showing me is yes. The crossing is real. The arrival is real. And the soul knows it is real. That was the first thing. The second thing he showed me is that the soul sees backward before it sees forward. And I mean that literally. He showed me that in those first moments after crossing, the soul turns back. Not because it is stuck, not because it cannot move forward, but because something is offered, a view, a complete view. He showed me the same man standing at the edge of that turquoise lake. And the water became like a mirror, not of the mountains, but of the man's entire life. Every moment, every choice, every person, every word spoken and unspoken, and he saw it all at once, not in sequence, all at once. And I asked, "Is that painful?" And Jesus said, "It is honest." He said, "Most souls weep, not from shame, not the way we weep from shame here, but from the weight of seeing fully what love was present and what love was missed." He said, "It is the clearest the soul has ever been." And I stood there at that lake, and I wept too, because I thought about my own life. And I thought about every moment I was too distracted or too proud or too tired to be fully present with the people in front of me. And I thought, what will I see when I stand at that water? I need you to sit with that question. What will you see? Not to condemn yourself, not to spiral into guilt, but just to ask it honestly. Because the second thing he showed me is that love matters more than we think it does in the moment. And urgency matters. The urgency to love the people in front of you today matters because you will see it. You will see it all. Now, the third thing he showed me changed the way I understand prayer forever. He showed me that the soul hears the prayers of the people it loves. In that backward view, in those first moments at the crossing, the soul hears every prayer that was ever spoken for it, everyone. And I watched this man still standing at the edge of that mirror lake, and I watched him suddenly turn his head like he heard something, and his face did something I cannot fully describe. It broke open because he was hearing the prayers of his children, prayers they had prayed for years, prayers they prayed the night he died, prayers that maybe he never knew about while he was alive. He heard every single one of them. And Jesus looked at me and said, "Your prayers reach further than you know." He said, "The ones you love, who have crossed, have heard everything you have said to them in the dark." And I had to sit down. I had to literally lower myself to the ground at the edge of that vision lake because my legs would not hold me. If you have prayed for someone you have lost, they heard it. That is what I was shown. That is the third thing. And I am telling you this because I think some of you have wondered. You have whispered their name at night and wondered if it reached anywhere. It reached. It reached. The fourth thing he showed me, and this is where it started to get harder to watch. The fourth thing is that the soul knows exactly who is ready and who is not. He showed me two people, two different souls, at the moment of crossing. One of them crossed into what I can only describe as light, not performance, not relief from an earned outcome, just light that received them. And the other soul hesitated, not at the edge of light, at the edge of a choice. And I watched that soul look back at the life it had lived and look forward at what was before it. And I saw what I can only describe as recognition. The recognition that something had been left undone, something had been left uncerted. And the soul knew, it knew the difference. It knew what it had held back. And I asked Jesus, I said, is there still a chance in that moment? Is there still a window? And he said something that I have been sitting with ever since. He said, I am present at every crossing. I do not abandon anyone in that moment, but I also do not override what someone has spent a lifetime choosing. That is the fourth thing, and I need you to hear it, because if there is something you have been holding back, some surrender that you have been postponing, some version of your life that you have been living where you give God everything except that one last thing, I am telling you, do not wait. Do not wait. The soul that I watched in that vision knew. It knew what it had withheld, and the weight of that knowledge in that moment was unlike anything I have ever seen on a human face. Now the fifth thing, and by this point I was shaking pretty hard. The fifth thing he showed me is about time, or rather about the absence of it. He told me that what we call time does not exist after the crossing in the way we understand it. And I know that sounds abstract, so let me tell you how he showed it to me. He showed me that moment at the lake, that first moment of arrival, and then he showed me what felt like years passing in the realm of the living, years of grief, years of people missing the soul that had crossed. And from the other side, it did not read as years. It read as a moment, like the blink between one sentence and the next. He said, no one who has crossed is experiencing a long wait for reunion. He said, what feels like decades of separation to you feels like a brief pause before a door opens. And I said, then why does grief feel so long from here? And he said, because you are still inside of time, and time is the only way love can be proven through choice. You grieve because you loved, and love proven through time is the very thing that makes the reunion meaningful. I have been thinking about that ever since. Time is the only way love can be proven through choice. So the grief you carry is not a sign that something went wrong. It is evidence of something real. It is the form that love takes when it is separated by time. And that separation, as long as it feels, is a breath on the other side. So here we are at 6, and I want to pause for just a second and ask you something directly. Are you still with me? Because I know this is a lot. I know some of you came into this video skeptical, and I respect that, but I also know that some of you came in because you are carrying grief. Real grief. The kind that does not announce itself in public but lives in your chest at 2 a.m. And if that is you, I want you to know that what I am sharing is not meant to give you easy comfort. It is meant to give you true comfort. There is a difference. Easy comfort says everything is fine. True comfort says everything is accounted for, everything is held, and nothing that mattered was lost. The 6th thing he showed me was the hardest for me personally, because it was about regret. Not the soul's regret, the living person's regret. He showed me someone, a woman. She was alive, still here in this world, and she was carrying a specific kind of grief that I recognized immediately because I have carried it. It was the grief of things not said, the conversation that never happened, the phone call she kept meaning to make, the visit that got rescheduled one too many times. And I watched her in this vision. I watched her living her ordinary life, grocery store, car, kitchen, and I watched how the unsaid thing followed her everywhere like a shadow attached at the wrong angle. And Jesus said, "Look it," he said. "This is what I grieve most among the living, not the big dramatic failures, the quiet postponements, the love that was real but was never fully delivered." He said, "The soul on the other side received what was given, but the living person carries what was never given. And that weight," he said, "that weight was never meant to be yours to carry forever." So he said, "I am releasing people tonight, people who are watching, people who are carrying unsaid things." And he said, "The one you are thinking of right now, they do not hold it against you. They know your heart. They always knew your heart. So if you thought of someone just now, I want you to say their name out loud. Just say it. You do not have to explain anything. Just say the name of the person you are thinking about. And let this moment be the release that Jesus said he was offering tonight. Say it out loud. I am serious. Say the name. Now we are at 7. And I told you I almost could not finish watching this one. I told you I had to ask him to stop, and I meant that. So, let me take a breath and tell you what the 7th thing was. Because this one is not just for people who are grieving. This one is for everyone. This one is the reason I believe he woke me up tonight. He showed me a door, not a metaphorical door, an actual door. Standing in the middle of that turquoise lake, standing on the water, and the door was open. And the light coming through it was the same light I described before. The light that received the first soul, the ready soul. And he said, "This door is open now tonight in this moment." He said, "More people are close to their crossing than they know." He said, "The distance between this world and that door is shorter than most people live as though it is." And he said, "I am not showing you this to frighten. I am showing you this because urgency is a form of love." He said, "I would rather you live the next 30 days differently than the last 30 years, than meet you at this door and have you wish you had known sooner." And then he showed me the door beginning to move, not closing, but turning, slowly turning. And I asked, "What does that mean?" And he said, "It means there is a window. There is always a window. But windows are not walls. They do not stay open indefinitely by accident. They stay open by intention." And he looked at me and said, tell them there is a window right now. Tell them to walk through it while it is standing open and full of light." And I said, "How long? How long is the window?" And he said something I have been sitting with since the moment this vision ended. He said, "I do not measure it in days.